I've come to believe, deep in my bones, that a single sentence spoken in the quiet of a new morning can change the entire direction of a life. I didn't always see it that way. There were long years when I would roll out of bed already feeling behind, as if the day had started making demands on me before I even opened my eyes. Emails waited for me like little alarms. Responsibilities crowded the doorway of my mind. I moved through the morning the way a tired commuter moves down a crowded subway platform, pushed more than choosing, carried more than deciding. Then one morning, in a season when my life felt too fast and too full, I whispered something almost by accident. Today I choose. And then I paused. I didn't even finish the sentence, but something in me shifted. A small, undeniable movement, like a door somewhere inside quietly unlocking. Maybe you felt it too. That subtle moment when you sense you're not really living your days, you're just managing them. And the thought of reclaiming even a single inch of your morning feels like reclaiming your own breath. That's why these 90 days matter so much to me. Because 90 days of morning choices don't just change your schedule, they change your relationship with your own life. Let me take you back to that first morning when this practice became real for me. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a mug of coffee I was too tired to drink. The house was still dark. My phone lit up with its usual plea for attention, full of messages about meetings, deadlines, things that seemed urgent but rarely meaningful. And I remember thinking with a kind of quiet sadness, when did my mornings become an emergency? So I did something small. I put the phone face down. I took a slow breath, and I said, "Today, I choose." My voice cracked a little, because I suddenly realized how long it had been since I had chosen anything with intention. That morning, I finally finished the sentence in a simple way. Today, I choose a slower pace. It wasn't a miracle. The day still had tasks, conversations, and moments of stress. But something unexpected happened. That little whisper shaped the rhythm of everything that came after it. I noticed I wasn't just reacting to life as much. I was responding. And there's a difference. Over time, I started telling friends about this practice, and I watched it quietly reshape lives in ways both big and small. A software engineer in Seattle told me he began each day with, "Today, I choose patience." And he said it changed how he navigated code reviews and team conflicts. A young mother in Ohio told me she chose presence for 30 days straight and felt like she truly met her kids again. A nurse in Boston chose boundaries, and for the first time in years, she stopped saying yes to every shift that left her exhausted. Each one of those stories reminded me of something simple and deeply human. The heart doesn't need control over everything. It just needs the feeling of choosing something. And that's what the morning offers us, a doorway before the noise begins. You see, the word choose is powerful. It's gentle but firm, quiet but determined. It doesn't carry the heaviness of should or must. Those words feel like wagging fingers. Choose feels like an open hand. When I say, "Today I choose," I feel a kind of inner permission. Permission to be honest. Permission to be human. Permission to be the author of at least one part of my day. Let me tell you about a friend of mine, a designer who worked in a busy New York agency. Burnout had crept up on him quietly. He told me he felt like his life was happening 2 inches in front of his face, always too fast to truly see. So I told him about this practice. He didn't believe a single sentence could help, but he tried it anyway. On day 1, he chose something simple. Today, I choose to breathe before reacting. On day 5, he said, "Today, I choose to finish one thing instead of juggling 10. On day 12, his sentence was, "Today, I choose to speak kindly to myself." And by day 20, he said something I'll never forget. "I thought I needed a new job," he told me. "Turns out, I needed a new way of beginning." What we choose in the morning becomes the filter for the day. It shapes how we walk into meetings, how we talk to our children, how we respond when traffic slows, when plans change, when frustrations spike. It quietly shifts the posture of the heart. Now, here's the beautiful paradox. The choice doesn't have to be big. Some mornings I choose rest, even on days when work is heavy. Some mornings I choose honesty, especially when conversations feel difficult. Some mornings I choose a gentle pace, because the world will try to speed me up whether I want it to or not. When you say, "Today I choose," you're not announcing perfection. You're planting direction. And direction, held over 90 mornings, slowly becomes transformation. I have often told people that small choices, repeated with sincerity, have the quiet strength of water shaping stone. You don't notice the change after 1 day, or 2, or even 7. But somewhere around the 3rd week, something shifts. Your mornings feel different. Your inner voice softens. Your reactions slow down. Your sense of self deepens. It's almost as if your life begins to feel like yours again. And here's the secret I want you to hold close. You deserve mornings that feel like beginnings, not burdens. I want to tell you a story about a young man I met in California, a startup founder whose company was growing fast, but his happiness wasn't. He told me he woke up every morning feeling like he had already failed before the day even began. Investors, metrics, expectations, all of it pressed on him before his feet touched the floor. When I shared this practice with him, he laughed and said, "One sentence isn't going to fix venture capital." I smiled and told him, "Maybe not, but it might fix your relationship with yourself." He called me a week later. He said, "I didn't understand what you meant until I said, 'Today, I choose to lead from calm.' It changed how I walked into every meeting." Then he paused and added, "I don't feel like I'm being chased anymore." That's what 90 days of morning choices do. They quiet the chase. They return you to your center. They remind you gently and firmly that your life belongs to you. I've always believed that people crave not more achievements, but more moments when they feel aligned with themselves. And alignment begins with awareness. Awareness begins with intention. And intention often begins with a single morning sentence. Now, I want to guide you deeper into how this practice shifts your inner landscape, your relationships, your work, your energy, and your sense of meaning. But before we go there, I want you to pause with me for a moment. Imagine tomorrow morning, before the emails, before the news, before the rush to get dressed, get out the door, get moving. You sit quietly, even for 30 seconds. You breathe, and you say gently, Today, I choose. What rises up in that silence? What do you long for? What does your heart whisper when it's finally given space? For some people, the answer is courage. For others, gentleness. For others, clarity. And for many, the first real choice they make is simply this. Today, I choose myself. Even if the world still needs things from you. Even if responsibilities don't go away. You start the day from a place of ownership rather than obligation. And that one shift from I must to I choose becomes the blueprint for an entirely new way of living. I've often reflected on how many years of my life I lived on autopilot. Not unhappy, not broken, just carried. Carried by expectations, carried by patterns, carried by habits I never truly chose.
And the more people I meet, the more I realize how common that feeling is. A woman once told me, I love my family, I love my job, but sometimes it feels like my days belong to everyone except me. That sentence stayed with me. It echoed something I had quietly felt for years, something I was never quite brave enough to say out loud. Choice is not about having control over everything. Most of us can't reshape the whole world in a single morning, but we can reshape the posture with which we enter it. And when that posture begins with, today I choose, everything changes. Not through force, but through a kind of gentle sovereignty. Let me show you how this practice tells the truth about life in a way that the hurried mind often forgets. We do not really live life in years. We live it in mornings. Morning is the hinge on which the rest of the day swings. It's the opening note of the song. And when that note is chosen, not inherited, the whole melody shifts. I remember once sitting in a coffee shop in Denver, waiting for a delayed flight. The place was crowded and noisy, full of people whose day had already been detoured. A young man sat beside me, visibly stressed, tapping his foot, checking his phone every few seconds. After a while, he sighed so deeply that I couldn't help but ask how he was holding up. He said, I've been trying to fix my life by fixing everything at once. It's exhausting. I smiled and told him a little about this 90-day practice. He scoffed at first, as many people do. But then he grew quiet. He leaned back, and after a moment, he whispered to himself, Today, I choose patience. It wasn't for me. It wasn't to impress anyone. It was a private declaration, spoken like someone handing himself a key he didn't know he had lost. And just like that, his shoulders softened. You could almost see his heartbeat slow. He put down his phone and stared out the window at the falling snow, as if it had been years since he last allowed himself to simply look. One quiet choice changed the entire weather inside him. That's the quiet magic of mornings. When you start with intention, the world doesn't shrink, but the noise inside you does. I've watched people choose forgiveness and find that bitterness lost its grip by noon. I've seen people choose focus and discover they accomplished more in 4 calm hours than they usually did in 10 frantic ones. I've seen people choose gentleness and notice their whole home becoming softer. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because they entered it differently. I remember a father of 3 telling me that he chose kindness every morning for 30 days. He told me it didn't make him perfect, but it made him present. And his kids noticed. They stopped flinching when I walked into a room, he said. That sentence broke my heart and mended it at the same time. Morning choices reveal who we want to be. Daily choices help us become that person. And here's something I've learned over and over again. People don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they begin their days out of alignment, rushing, doubting, reacting, running. The world doesn't need you to be faster. It needs you to be truer. One of the most surprising things about this practice is how it affects our work, especially in a world where the first thing many people touch each morning is their phone. A software developer in Atlanta once told me that the moment he woke up, he felt like a support ticket. His phone buzzed like someone shaking his shoulder. His whole day was triage. He said, "I solve problems for a living, but it feels like the problems own me." He started with one sentence. "Today, I choose clarity." He told me it was the first time he understood that not every notification was a command. Not every request was urgent. Not every noise deserved his attention. Clarity became his compass. Not control, not power. Clarity. And clarity, he learned, is a form of kindness. Kindness toward yourself and kindness toward anyone who depends on you. Let me tell you about the morning when I realized that this practice wasn't just helpful, it was essential. I woke up feeling overwhelmed by a long week ahead. Meetings, travel, deadlines, a personal conversation I didn't want to have. I felt the swell of stress before my feet even touched the floor. And I knew that if I stepped into the day from that place, the whole day would inherit that tension. So I sat on the edge of my bed and whispered, "Today, I choose grace. Grace for myself, grace for others, grace for the things that wouldn't go as planned." It felt like placing a warm hand on my own shoulder. That day didn't suddenly become easy, but it became navigable. Every time my anxiety rose, I returned to that morning choice. It grounded me like a lighthouse in the fog. Our choices are anchors. They hold us steady in waters we cannot control. Sometimes the choice you make in the morning becomes the very thing that carries you through difficulty. A young teacher in Chicago told me she always chose presence on the days she knew would be chaotic. "Because if I'm present," she said, "I can serve. If I'm scattered, I lose myself and everyone else with me." She understood something profound. Presence is not just a gift to others. It's oxygen for the self. I've also watched this practice soften marriages. You wouldn't think one sentence could do that, but it can. A man once told me that he began choosing listen every morning. Just that, listen. He said it transformed his home more than any book, any podcast, any seminar ever did. I realized I was responding to my wife before I even heard her, he said. Now I choose to hear first. The power of I choose is that it opens space. Space for patience. Space for kindness. Space for understanding. Space for the person you want to become. And that's the heart of it. This practice doesn't ask you to be perfect. It invites you to be intentional. You're not rewriting the world. You're rewriting the posture with which you meet it. And posture changes everything. When you choose honesty in the morning, You walk into conversations differently. When you choose courage, you make the phone calls you've been avoiding. When you choose rest, you stop apologizing for being human. When you choose peace, you stop borrowing trouble from tomorrow. There is a moment in every morning when the world is still soft, when your mind hasn't yet filled with all the stories it tells itself throughout the day. That moment is yours. And when you begin it with choice, you train your heart to recognize freedom, even in small forms. Before we move into the practical steps, I want to offer you one more thought. You are always one morning away from a different life. Not a perfect life, not a flawless life, but a chosen life. And chosen lives feel lived, not endured. Now let me guide you into the part of this practice that turns intention into transformation. The part that makes your mornings not just hopeful, but steady, grounded, and meaningful. Before I show you the practices, I want to share something I learned only after years of watching people grow through small daily choices. Change rarely begins with discipline. It begins with permission. Permission to slow down. Permission to feel. Permission to choose again tomorrow if today slips through your fingers. Permission to be human. That's why these morning intentions work. They aren't commands, they aren't rules. They're invitations. Soft, steady, completely yours. And now, when you've breathed in this idea long enough for it to settle, let me walk you gently into the heart of the practice, the part that you'll carry with you every morning for the next 90 days. Practice 1 is something I call begin with one honest sentence. This isn't a ritual of performance. It's a ritual of truth. The moment you wake up, before your hand reaches for your phone, before the rolls of the day crowd in, you sit for a breath or two. You put your feet on the floor. You feel the weight of your own body, and you whisper, "Today I choose." Not what you think you should choose, not what the world expects you to choose, but what your life quietly asks for right now. Maybe today you choose rest, maybe clarity, maybe boundaries, maybe courage. Maybe the simplest thing of all. Today, I choose to be gentle with myself. You'll be surprised how often the heart tells the truth when the world hasn't had time to speak over it. In this first practice, here's how I move through it. First, I sit up before I reach for any device. Then I breathe slowly 3 times. Then I whisper, "Today, I choose." And I let the ending rise naturally without forcing it. After that, I make sure to speak it aloud, even if it's just a quiet murmur. And then, all through the day, I carry that sentence with me, like a small stone in my pocket. Practice 2 is this. Choose only one intention per morning. When life feels heavy, people often try to fix everything at once. They create long lists of goals, habits, transformations, and then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed by noon. But one choice is enough. One choice is powerful. One choice is sustainable. One choice is honest. A man once told me he tried choosing 10 things I want to be today. I gently asked him, how many of those feel like pressure instead of truth? He laughed and admitted, all 10. The beauty of a single intention is that it gives you a center of gravity. You don't have to wonder who you're trying to be throughout the day. You already decided. So with this second practice, you write down your one choice somewhere simple, maybe on a sticky note, maybe in the Notes app on your phone. You keep it visible on your desk, on your dashboard, on your fridge. You repeat it each time you transition between tasks, and you let everything else be extra, not required. Practice 3 is this. Return to your choice in difficult moments. A morning intention is not a wish, it's a compass. The moment you feel overwhelmed, a stressful email arrives, a tough conversation starts, a sudden spike of doubt shows up, you return to your intention. Today, I choose peace. Today, I choose patience. Today, I choose truth. Today, I choose a calm pace. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when your inbox grows faster than your patience, when old fears whisper their old stories, you don't need to start the whole day over. You just need to return to the sentence. So in those moments, you notice the tension rising in your body. You pause for a single breath. You repeat your chosen sentence. And you let that sentence reshape the moment before the moment reshapes you. Practice 4 is this. Use evening reflection to strengthen morning choice. The morning sets the direction. The evening confirms the growth. Before bed, you take about 60 seconds and gently ask yourself, did I honor my choice today, even once? Not perfectly, just once. If the answer is yes, you celebrate that. Small victories are how the heart learns trust. If the answer is no, you release the day with kindness. You remember that tomorrow is a blank page waiting for your hand. So at night, you sit or lie comfortably. You reflect on your morning choice. You look for one moment when you lived it. If you didn't find one, you gently forgive yourself. And you end the day with gratitude for another chance tomorrow. Practice 5 is this. Let your choices evolve with you. You won't choose the same thing for all 90 days. You'll change. Your needs will change. Your season of life will change. Some mornings you'll choose boldness, others, softness. Some weeks will be dedicated to clarity, others, to peace. Your choices reveal your inner landscape, and that landscape is always shifting. So don't cling to yesterday's intention if today is asking for something different. Listen to what your body and mind are asking for. Let the intention change when it needs to. Trust your own inner timing. Write down the shifts you notice and celebrate the evolution, not just the consistency. 90 days of choices is not a challenge to conquer. It's a journey, a slow, meaningful return to yourself. And as the days pass, something inside you begins to settle into a new way of being. Let me tell you what usually happens around week 4. People start noticing small changes, a calmer reaction, a softer tone, a gentler morning, a quieter mind, a deeper breath. Around week 6, something else begins to shift. They find themselves making choices without effort, boundaries without guilt, moments of honesty without fear, rest without justification. And by week 12, around the end of the 90 days, people tell me something that always sounds the same.
no matter their age, their job, or their background. I finally feel like my life is mine. Those words, more than anything, show me why this practice matters so deeply.
Because when you begin your day with choice, you begin your day with freedom. And freedom, even in small doses, has a way of multiplying. Your relationships soften. Your work becomes rooted rather than rushed. Your inner voice becomes supportive instead of sharp. Your sense of direction becomes clearer. Your mornings become moments of grounding rather than scrambling. If you stay with this practice long enough, something remarkable happens. The sentence you speak in the morning doesn't just shape your day, it reshapes your identity. Bit by bit, choice by choice, you become the person you've been quietly wanting to be. And now, as we reach the final part of this journey together, I want to leave you with a warm, steady truth. You don't need to change everything. You just need to choose something. Even the smallest choice, spoken with sincerity, can begin to rewrite a life. You deserve mornings that feel like beginnings. You deserve days that feel like yours. And you deserve a life that grows from the inside out, not the outside in. Hold this close. Tomorrow may never come, but today arrives with open hands, waiting for you to choose the way you will live it. And if all you do, starting tomorrow morning, is sit for a moment, breathe, and whisper, "Today, I choose," then you have already begun. You're not late. You're not behind. You're right on time for your own life.